Okay, so hello everybody. I'm just an ICU resident trying to learn concepts one at a time and felt like probably putting up something on whatever platform that I could possibly. And in the process, if I basically try to teach things, I would learn it better myself. I don't say that this is the ultimate guide for everything that you need to know. It's just that I'm trying to learn the concept and this is what I have understood of it. So for today, I would like to start with what I've read and what I've understood about therapeutic plasma exchange. Um, so the first thing that you we need to know about is how is it different from apheresis, or basically what is apheresis. So apheresis is a procedure in which the blood of the patient is taken out, put through a machine, and then the components are separated. And once these components are separated, we either do a particular extracorporeal treatment to it or add a replacement, or in some cases, we don't do anything about it and just give back the separated component back to the patient. So, what are the other modalities in which you can possibly do this? One is you do the plasma exchange, which is what I'm going to be majorly dealing with over here. It is a procedure where you take out the blood of the patient, pass it through a machine, which then separates the plasma from the other components. And then this plasma is replaced with some sort of a replacement solution. You either use albumin or plasma or some sort of crystalloid or colloid solution and give it back to the patient. In contrast, there is something called immunoadsorption. Here, you're taking the plasma out of the patient, passing it through a machine where it gets separated either based on a membrane based separation or a centrifugal separation. And then there is an adsorber column there which has the capacity to remove immunoglobulins by binding them to select ligands on the matrix, backing matrix surface which it has on this adsorber column. And then the plasma is again returned back. And in double filtration plasmapheresis, what happens is the pathogenic substances are removed from the plasma based on their size and basically determined by the molecular weight and the three-dimensional configuration of this molecule by using the plasma filters with different pore sizes. So the basic difference, what or how plasma exchange is different is you are giving a replacement fluid along with the plasma that you're returning back to the patient. So how does this actually help, or why do you want to do plasma exchange? It helps in removal of auto antibodies, like in case of Goodpasture syndrome or in GB syndrome in myasthenia, or to remove, say, immune complexes, like in case of SLE in acute glomerulonephritis, and in conditions where there are metabolic products, either that is endogenously formed or you have some exogenous component or some where there are some toxins. So examples for that would be triglyceridemia, thyrotoxic crisis, or in fulminant hepatic failure. Or it helps to replenish the deficient molecules. Like in case of the TTP, we have this ADAMTS13 molecule which is missing. So that can be replaced along with the plasma. But one thing that we have to keep in mind is that plasma exchange is only going to remove the antibodies that are already formed. It does nothing to really stop the formation of the newer autoantibodies, which is why you need concomitant immune suppression along with doing TP. So, how is this different from, say, dialysis? What happens in dialysis is it is only going to clear substances that are less than zero point 0.5 kilodaltons of size. So, your creatinine, your urea, your glucose, all that will go out. So, that comes here. But then comes the hemofiltration, which you can take up about 13 to 50 kilodalton size molecules. But in case of TPE, what is happening is you can clear the macromolecules which are of the size of 66 to 950 kilodaltons. So basically, what is happening is all your bigger molecules like your albumin, your fibrinogen, bilirubin, all that can be taken out, including your IgM molecules. So, what is the ideal characteristic of a molecule for it to be eliminated by TPE? One thing is it should have a large molecular weight, because if it's small, you can do it with dialysis as well. Lower volume of distribution, which means it has to predominantly stay inside the intravascular compartment. I will talk about this later on as well. That if something is in the intravascular compartment, it can be taken out easily. There is no, consideration of redistribution back into the intravascular compartment. That is, if it was situated elsewhere. I will come to that, and it needs to have a slow rate of formation. Basically, you're washing out the substance, and the next time the substance formed, it has to be slow, otherwise immediately you are going to have a higher concentration of the substance in the plasma, and your effort to do this plasma exchange is basically going to a waste. And it has to have a long elimination half life, because if it had a short elimination half life, it would automatically get eliminated by the body itself. You don't really need to go through this elaborate procedure of pushing blood through a machine and then purifying it. So that's why these are the essential characteristics for your TPE to be effective. So how can you actually do it? There are two ways. One is you do a centrifugal TPE or you do a membrane based TPE. So how does this centrifugal TPE works is it separates the molecules based on the density. That is, it uses specific gravity. And here the blood flow rates are lower. That is, it is about 10 to 150 milliliters per minute. So because this blood flow rate is slow, you can also do it through a peripheral line. But if you have a central line, you can do it through that as well. And another thing that has to be kept in mind is the per pass extraction is 80%, which means every time this plasma is going through the machine, 80% of the substances are getting filtered out. So it is highly efficient. And what anticoagulation is commonly used is citrate. But in case of membrane TPE, what is being done is it is using ultrafiltration as a mechanism. So that and the blood flow rates are higher over here. That is 150 to 300 milliliters per minute. So that is why you need a strict central dialysis catheter in place, because to take out the blood through with such high blood flow, you need a wider lumen. So another thing that has to be kept in mind is the per pass extraction in case of membrane TPE is lesser. That is, it is 30%. So if you look at it in that way, it has lesser efficiency, but at the end of the day there is a higher blood flow, so this eventually gets compensated. And for anticoagulation we use either heparin or citrate. So like I said, both modalities remove equal amounts of IgG and have the same overall therapeutic effect. So, how do you prescribe it? So, one thing is the decision to go ahead with plasmapheresis or plasma exchange is a multidisciplinary approach. That is, what are the decisions that to be considered, like whether TPE has to be done, what would be the dose, the frequency, the timing of it, and what is the end point of this particular process. And vascular access, like I've mentioned earlier, based on whether it is a centrifugal or a membrane based approach, you can do it through a peripheral access or with a central dialysis catheter. How do you decide the dose? So this dose is not really different for your centrifugal and membrane based, and it is usually done with this formula, that is to calculate the estimated plasma volume, which is 0.065 times the weight in kg into 1 minus the hematocrit. So here this weight component is basically the ideal body weight that is to be used. And another thing that has to be kept in mind is, suppose you're doing this plasma exchange procedure in a patient who is pregnant, then by the second trimester, the plasma volume is going to increase by 50%. So that has to be kept in mind. I have mentioned it in a subsequent portions of this talk. And why do we? So, what normally is done is we remove about 1.5 times the plasma volume with every exchange. Why is it so? So, this elimination of substances relies on first order kinetics. So, when you do a one time plasma volume exchange, about 63% of the substances are removed. Then, if you go ahead to 1.5 times, about 78% is removed. But if you go around, that is, if you do exchange of about two times the plasma volume, the substances quantity that is removed is only about 83%. So from 78, you are going to 83. That is, if you exchange 1.5 and if you exchange 2, the additional whatever you're removing is only about 5%. But for that 5% increase, we are basically subjecting the patient through all the complications of plasma exchange associated. So basically, there is diminishing returns, which is why we do only 1.5 times the plasma volume exchange. And another thing is about what kind of substance is removed. Here, the blue lines are showing the IgG, which is primarily not intravascular, and then there is the red, which is determined, which is showing the IgM, and IgM is predominantly intravascular. So here you can see after one plasma volume exchange, this IgM, which is represented by red, falls down, and then between the two sessions the plasma levels remain the same because it is primarily intravascular. You don't really have the situation where it is getting redistributed from another space. Then again, after the second exchange, the volume comes down further, and then so on and so forth. But in the case of something like IgG, even though you start at the same level with a primarily intravascular substance like IgM, after the first volume, even the IgG levels have fallen down. But because there is redistribution of this IgG back into the intravascular compartment, the levels again go up. So during the second volume exchange, you are starting at a higher level of IgG in the plasma again, and then it falls down. Eventually, of course, the values come down, but this is one thing that has to be kept in mind. Next is anticoagulation. You are taking out blood from a patient, running it through a machine. So obviously it needs some amount of anticoagulation. So here we usually use citrate, prostacyclin, or heparin. Usually with the centrifugal type, we are using citrate as the anticoagulant, and membrane usually uses heparin. What happens when you use citrate is there can be a drop in the serum calcium ion concentration. This is because citrate is a calcium chelator. So that is why you have to keep that in mind, and the calcium ionized calcium levels have to be kept monitored. So what do you use as a fluid replacement in plasma exchange? It is either albumin or plasma. So this albumin that's used is 5% albumin. The pros associated with it would be it has lower risk of allergies and no risk of any transfusion related transmitted infections or any transfusion related complications also. But the con is that there is a risk of dilutional coagulopathy because albumin is not replacing any of the coagulation factors that are being lost, and also there is risk of metabolic acidosis because albumin is an acidic component. Plasma FFP, generally plasma is used when you know that the patient has bleeding tendencies already. So you use these basically in compound in places where you have to replace the essential plasma components like this ADAM TS13 in case of TTP. This reduces the bleeding risk for procedures. And the complications would be there is a higher allergic reaction risk, greater number of donor exposure, and it causes metabolic alkalosis because for the metabolism of citrate, you need hydrogen ions. So the hydrogen ions are getting used up and then it finally forms bicarbonate. So you have metabolic alkalosis basically. And adjunctively, crystalloids can also be used. Basically, this is done when you need to do cost containment and there is a hyperviscosity syndrome. But the caveat or the limit that has to be kept in mind is the crystalloid should only form 30% of the replacement fluid and not more than that. Because if you do that, you are risking hypotension. And another thing is you have to administer it early in the process of plasma exchange, not at the end to avoid significant fluid shifts. And starch is not recommended because it can cause renal impairment. So when exactly would you do this plasmapheresis? Basically, there are three levels